Have you ever wondered how hackers manage to crack software? Today, we'll dive into the techniques they use, step by step, and uncover the methods behind these cracks. By the end, you'll understand how this works and why it's crucial for developers to stay one step ahead to safeguard their creations. Let's start with the activation process because this is where it all begins. For most premium software, the activation process acts as a gatekeeper, ensuring only legitimate users can unlock the full features. The type of activation used determines how secure or vulnerable the software is. There are three primary methods: online activation, offline activation, and pre-activated files. Online activation relies on server-side code. This means the software communicates with a remote server to validate the key or license. Offline activation, on the other hand, uses embedded code within the software itself to handle validation. Pre-activated files are simply a version of the software where the activation process has already been bypassed or removed. Hackers target these processes to find loopholes. For example, if the software's offline verification mechanism is weak or poorly implemented, it becomes an easy target for reverse engineering. Speaking of reverse engineering, this is the bread and butter of software cracking. It's a technique hackers use to disassemble and analyze a program's code. The goal is to understand how the software works, where the activation mechanisms are located, and how they can be bypassed. Imagine taking apart a puzzle to see how each piece fits together, and then modifying one piece to make the puzzle easier to solve. That's essentially what reverse engineering does to software. Hackers use specialized tools like debuggers and disassemblers to break down the program. Once they've identified the part of the code responsible for activation, they tweak it, recompile the software, and create a crack. For instance, they might disable checks that verify activation, tricking the program into thinking it's been properly activated. In cases where there are no post-activation checks, like a server confirming the key, this process becomes even simpler. For online activation, things get a little trickier but far from impossible. Since online verification involves server-side keys and external validation, it's harder to bypass. However, if there's even one weak spot in the code, such as poorly implemented communication between the software and the server, hackers can exploit it. They might intercept and analyze the data sent to the server or find a way to manipulate the software into accepting invalid keys. Some software, particularly those with strong server-side validation and encrypted communication, can resist these attacks much better, but even then, nothing is ever completely foolproof. Key generation is another popular cracking method, and it's exactly what it sounds like. When you buy software and register with an email, a unique key is generated using an algorithm. Hackers aim to reverse engineer this algorithm to understand how the keys are created. Once they crack the code, they can produce their own valid keys without ever needing to purchase the software. For example, if a program generates a 16-digit key based on your email address, the hacker studies the pattern behind those digits. Once the algorithm is revealed, they can write their own key generator to mimic it. Another common approach is manipulating jump conditions. After activation, software typically checks whether a license is valid before unlocking premium features. This is done through conditional checks in the code. Hackers reverse engineer the software, locate these checks, and modify them. Instead of verifying the license, the code simply jumps to the part where features are unlocked. By altering these jump conditions, hackers can bypass the activation process entirely. Now that we've discussed how hackers crack software, let's look at how developers can protect it. First and foremost, secure coding practices are essential. Many vulnerabilities stem from poorly written or unoptimized code. For online activation, implementing strong server-side validation and encrypting communication between the software and the server can add an extra layer of protection. Additionally, using obfuscation techniques to make your code harder to read and reverse engineer can slow down potential attackers. Keep in mind that no software is completely uncrackable, but a well-secured program makes the process far more difficult and time-consuming, discouraging most hackers from even trying.